We're in the beginning stages of 2025, and all I can tell you is not a whole lot has come out very new for the AR platform rifle. Well, there is a little bit of a change in the rifle I have sitting in front of me today. That is going to be the X2 Dev ARX. This is going to be the ARX LightFighter. So we're going to discover or talk to you guys about some of the things that may be a little bit different on this particular rifle than what you see on some of the other ones, because it does have some nuances that are different, and the company itself they're very proud of what they've done with this rifle and some of the things that it does feature. If you're ever curious about anything you see within our videos, there's always a link within the description or in the comment section below. It takes you to our website. When you go to the website, it's going to have everything that you may be looking for that you see us using inside that video. So let's talk about this X2 rifle. So the ARX LightFighter, what is it? Well, it's an AR-15. Shocker. But what's more important about this rifle is it does have some features that are a little bit different than most of the other manufacturers on the market. Let's talk about cost though, because it is a $2,800 rifle, so it's an expensive rifle. They tout these rifles as sub MOA at 100 yards. We'll test a little bit of that today, but we're going to shoot this thing a bunch and see ultimately how it performs and how it functions. Most of your modern ARs nowadays should be able to achieve sub MOA accuracy. Now myself personally, if it doesn't achieve that, chances are I probably don't like it and I don't want it. I'm not real into, like, let's say it has to have a cold hammer forged barrel that shoots 2.5 MOA, it's mil spec, great. I'm not into that stuff. What I'll tell you is that this thing is far more than any mil spec rifle that you're ever going to pick up. ARX LightFighter, obviously being an ambi gun and having an ambi magazine release, it also has an ambi bolt release or bolt lock. With the rifle, on your trigger, let's say I'm a right-handed shooter, so beneath the trigger guard, there's a little tab under here. When I hit that tab and I push it down, I'm able to lock the bolt. I can conversely release the gun by pushing up on that. You'll notice when I do that with this rifle, unlike what you find on the Daniel Defense Res 3 rifle, or you find on like an LWRCI where you have to kind of break your grip, you don't actually have to do that with this gun. What I'll tell you though, one thing that I'll make note of is that this has sharp edges down here on the bolt lock, bolt release. I can't say it's real smooth. It's not really chamfered very well, but it is very effective. It's super easy to lock the bolt back, and it's easy to push it up, but keep in mind, it is a little bit on the sharp side there across the bottom. On the, let's say, left-handed or wrong-handed shooter side of the gun, magazine release and a bolt lock. So standard stuff that you would come to expect on that side of the gun if you're a right-handed shooter. It does have an ambi safety on here. It has good lengths on both sides where it doesn't interfere with my trigger finger. The trigger on here itself, let's see what this thing is. So it's a single stage trigger. The single stage trigger itself, I'd say, is close to about 3 pounds. I don't have a trigger scale for me today. It does have anti-roll pins and also anti-walk pins. So good stuff there. So obviously with some of your trigger packs like this has, you don't have to worry about your pins falling out of the gun while you're shooting it. If you've shot ARs enough, you've probably experienced that with a trigger pack on some of your lower end budget guns. So this one, luckily, you will not have to have that issue. You'll notice on the magazine well here, it's a little bit different how it's contoured, how it's shaped, and overall how the lower is contoured. So with this lower receiver here on the mag well, you'll notice it has a very large bevel across the bottom. So it's flared very well, but then also kind of like kicks out to an extent. So what that means, so ultimately, let's say you go into like a high ready portion and you're going to reload the gun. So you tuck it under your arm pocket and you roll that magazine underneath the gun. It's very simple. Now versus if it's up here, it's also simple because you can always usually coming in at like a frontward angle versus downward up like this. So it's very easy to get the magazine inside the gun. Now the upper receiver itself is not monolithic, but it's very similar to how some of your monolithic upper receivers are. Meaning what happens is the upper receiver is extruded out, and then the handguard itself with M-lock slots at, let's see, it's got them at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. Then there's also M-lock positions at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And then you do have QD sockets with steel inserts that are anti-rotation across both sides of the gun, left and right. It's smooth all across, and this is really one of probably the nicest handguards that I've seen on a rifle. That's very well done. Now the handguard itself attaches directly to the receiver, which means the handguard does not make contact with the barrel nut. Barrel nut actually goes underneath and goes inside the receiver itself. What does that do for somebody who's concerned about accuracy? For somebody who's concerned about accuracy and having an accurate rifle, it means you're not going to have barrel deflection when you go to add pressure onto the bottom side of this rail if you're doing positional type shooting off a bipod. Barrel deflection is really as simple as it sounds. Ultimately what it means is as you're putting pressure on a handguard or an AR, it can cause cause the barrel to actually flex upwards if you don't have a good enough or strong enough barrel nut system. It's fairly common. It's just that what happens is most shooters are not good enough to actually see that occur when they're shooting their AR platform rifle. It's something you have to really take note of or notice. Like, what's your rifle look like when you don't put pressure on it versus what's it look like when you do put pressure on it. Bolt guns, you don't worry about it because of a chassis system. But with these ones and ARs, it's very common. Now, this rifle design and how it's set up basically negates that, makes it nearly impossible to even occur because your handguard's never making contact with the barrel itself. So good overall design there, and I really applaud them for doing that. That can really lend to, let's say, accuracy at both, let's say, close range, like 100 yards, all the way out to, let's say, 1,000 yards if you're gonna run some like 77 grain bullets. The barrel on here is their Trident barrel. It's a heavy fluted barrel, so meaning it's a heavyweight profile barrel that's then fluted down, and it's fluted all the way around the barrel. And then it does have a mid-length gas system with a gas block that is not pinned, but it looks like it's recessed into there, and then it also has some screws in the bottom that are knurled. So they're actually knurled to keep them from unlocking. It's very similar to like what Sons of Liberty Gunworks does on their gas block itself. It is a tunable gas block. However, it's not like an adjustable one where it can actually unscrew. You could have issues. So it's a little bit, let's say, more battle hardened. Up here in the front is their muzzle device. The little bit that I've shot this rifle, this muzzle device is not very effective. If we're being honest about, guns and, our whole mantra throughout 2024 and carrying on is make gun reviews honest again. And we're gonna keep it that. So I'll tell you, the muzzle device on this it just doesn't really do a whole lot, in my opinion. Other than that though, across the top of the gun, your pick rail that goes from the back to the front, there is no interruptions in it whatsoever. In fact, how they have the handguard finished and going into the upper receiver, that's a full pick rail slot there. So it's a normal size pick rail slot. You don't have a big gap or anything like that. So uninterrupted. So obviously if you're running different mounts, you're on night vision, whatever it might be, you won't have any issues with this rifle. I didn't mention it, but this is a 16-inch gun, so it's not a pinned welded or anything like that. Up here on the top, in case you're wondering, this is a PLX scope from Primary Arms. This is their peanut butter pickle flavor. It's a good looking overall color. It looks good on this like OD green, gun. It really is a phenomenal optic. It's probably one of the best ones you can buy for the money. We've ran this thing a lot throughout 2024, and into 2025, it's gonna live on this gun. Good wheel and all that type of stuff, good brightness levels. It's really a really well-made scope. I highly recommend it. Again, you can find links to that type of stuff. Now, the charging handle, I know why they designed it. That doesn't mean I like it. The charging handle was not designed with the concept that, like, when you're wearing a rifle and you're wearing like body armor, your plate carrier or something like that, what happens at times is when you have enlarged or oversized charging handles and the rifle's moving around on the front of your body while you're walking, or maybe you're arresting a suspect, whatever it might be, what can happen is you can get a slight pull on the rear charging handle. It'll knock your rifle out of battery. Well, when that happens, your bolt carrier obviously is out of battery and the gun will not fire. So when that happens, you can't shoot the gun then when you need to, ultimately. So you may have to actually use a forward assist, which this does not have. Now, for myself, I like them. I know the comment section will go buck wild over the fact that I like forward assist and you don't, and that's fine. Your rifles, you can have them or don't have them. I like them on mine. So this does not have a forward assist, but that's okay, because there are other ways to do it. Of course, that's why they put the scallop in there. If you want to push the bolt forward under a very stressful condition, you can do that. Go ahead and try. But back here on the charging handle itself, the charging handle itself has like inward facing latches. So meaning instead of them being able to catch, which this rifle cannot, because it's a good design as far as if you're trying to negate that, but the way they're inside. You still have no issues when you're actually wanting to charge the rifle. So when you grab the charging handle like you normally would, there's no issues. And it is an ambi charging handle. So you grab it from the left or the right with no issues. And then the furniture on the gun is going to be B5 systems. So big fan of that stuff. It's probably my favorite design for furniture itself. I like the grip the most, and the stock itself. Sometimes they're a little bit wibbly wobbly, but for the most part, I like how they feel on my shoulder, and I like how the cheek welds are on them. And they're also relatively inexpensive. Nothing special as far as the receiver tube back there, but then on the back, you do have a QD socket on the back of your receiver. So tons of great features on this gun. It looks really well made. It looks good. It's well finished. It does feel like a gun that would likely cost $2,800. So let's get it on the range. We'll show you guys how this thing performs. We'll let you make some determinations based off its performance and how you think it's doing to tell us whether you think it's worth its high price tag. All right, we're gonna shoot 3 different groups 5-shot groups each. I'm going to use 77 grain, 73 grain, and 69 grain. All of them are going to be Federal Sierra Match Kings, gold medal match stuff. Obviously well known for being very accurate rounds out of the AR platform. They're kind of the gold standard on those 77 grains, so let's see how this thing performs. Next ammo is going to be the 73 grain. First one was going to be 77. Something to note is that as I shoot this rifle, I have to say it's overgassed. I'm not shooting a suppressor today, obviously, but the rifle itself I'm actually getting a fair amount of gas coming back into my eyes when I'm shooting, and I'm not shooting the suppressor. In addition to that, I can see the ejection pattern. We're looking at like probably like a 1 or 2 o'clock ejection on a rifle that, again, is not suppressed. The muzzle brake, to be fair, is not all that effective either. It feels honestly like I'm shooting like an A2 birdcage as far as the muzzle brake. Now, accuracy-wise, it looks like we had a 1 MOA group with the 77 grain, about 1.5 inches with that 73, and now we're going to shoot the 69 after this rifle cools down a touch. The next group we're going to shoot, this is actually going to be with our 69 Sierra Match King with the 69 grain. After I shoot that 69 grain, we're going to actually take the 77 grain. I'm going to shoot like basically a 10-round group with that, and we'll see how it does after it's a little bit warmer and see if it holds a good level of accuracy. Like I said, I'm seeing about a 1-inch group with it already, so I can't complain there whatsoever. Something to make note of is I mentioned about how it seems like it's a little bit overgassed. It's most definitely overgassed out of the box. It does have what they call a tunable gas system with regulating inserts. So meaning I'd have to take some of this apart today. I'm not going to be doing that, but it's something to make note of with this rifle is that you can actually tune it a little bit better if you want to with those inserts. If you're going to shoot suppressed, not suppressed, or whatever ultimate setting you're looking for. Hell of a group there. It's a good one. That 69 grain group is probably about a 1/2 inch. So excellent group. I have 10 rounds lit up, the 77 grain Sierra Match King. Just shot that 5-round group. This also put it at 15 on this barrel. It's a little bit warmer, but what that's going to show us is let's see what kind of accuracy this thing holds as it's warm. It is a heavy profile fluted barrel. That's their design with the Trident barrel. It's ultimately one of the things that they preach with this rifle. It's that under heat or whatever it might be, it retains accuracy. So let's see how she does. I'll tell you is that the bolt release itself is a little bit different. You have to certainly be careful because of the location that it's at, but it's pretty simple, like in a shooting position like this, to hit that lever up and ultimately release it. The safeties themselves, it's like a 80-degree throw, it feels like, 75 somewhere in there. It's not full 90, and it does feel nice. They're good tactile, and the trigger on this rifle is really darn good. Just finished up shooting the X2 Dev ARX LightFighter. This rifle is touted as being an accurate rifle, and according to our groups, it is certainly an accurate rifle. We shot the very first 5-shot group out of the gun. That was 0.826 MOA group that's shooting 77 grain Sierra Match King. After that one, I shot the 73 grain. You'll see it's actually a 1.515 MOA group. These are measured ballistic X. That's usually what I use to measure groups. It seems pretty darn accurate, and I'm not bringing out calipers. It's 2025. And then after that, we come down here and we shoot this nice group. Obviously shooting the 69 grain Sierra, Match King. All three of these groups are really darn good. This is at 100 yards, 3 to 18 power scope. You know, and to be upfront and honest too, the primary arm scopes, they work really darn well. I think they have good glass, especially in their price range. But personally for me, I think their reticles suck for precision. If you're trying to shoot, you know, really precise, you know, shots and things like that, their ACSS reticle is really good for, you know, shooting steel and things like that. I think it's good for that stuff, but shooting, you know, tight groups is not the most ideal. However, it didn't handicap us very much, in my opinion, because of how you're able to line it up. Now, after that, like I said, the 69 grain shot fantastic, all these 5-shot groups. And then what I think is really nice is this rifle, after it was, let's say, warm or hot with this heavy fluted profile barrel, we come down here and we shoot this 10-shot group. That's a 1.48 MOA group, 10 shots. Now, some of that could be a little bit of shooter deviation, but overall, I mean, you see that thing, it's a really darn good shooting rifle. It's very consistent, even when it's hot. You know, and they've touted this thing shooting out to a mile, and I certainly think it could be possible. Something though that we have to make note of is while shooting the 69 grain, it had extremely weak ejection. In fact, the casings themselves, we'll show you that close up, they're pretty chewed up. I'm not really sure as far as what that goes into. After the video, I'll take the rifle apart and check at the extractor and things like that, because 77 grain and 73 grain, it didn't have that issue, but the 69, it was pretty poor. Now, some of that could be due to the ammo. It's hard to say. Overall, though, I think the rifle shoots very darn well. I'm very impressed with how it shoots. The fit and finish of the rifle is good. You know, we'll run this rifle quite a bit more this year and try some things out and give you guys, I think I'd like to do an updated video just truly seeing how it shoots on steel. When we go out and we shoot some stuff from Mammoth with our bolt guns, we'll run it out at distance and we'll make a follow-up video, make it a weekly raw dog where we throw like a 1 to 8 on here and we'll shoot this thing out to distance and show you guys that stuff. If there's more you want to see in regards to ARX LightFighter, what I would tell you is drop us a comment, ask us some questions. This is a fairly new rifle to a lot of folks, and it's very expensive. They have a 10-week lead time currently on their site, and they're running about $2,800. Do I think it's $2,800 worth? I think that's up to the individual. Weight-wise, function-wise, all of that stuff seems good. And I just think overall it's a really well-made rifle that's a little bit different from the rest of your standard AR-15s out there. I think it's worth giving a solid look at if you're looking for a precision 16-inch gun, because I definitely think, based off these groups, it's very capable of that. But until next time, guys, drop us a comment, drop us a like, let us know what you want to see in a future video from the ARX LightFighter.